what a joy to be able to sit down and talk to people who have been part of Love for the last 40 years, to talk about where it came from, how it has developed into what it is, and to talk about how God might be using it in the future. And so I want to personally thank each of you for the roles that you have played in making Love something that responds with compassion and dignity to a community and builds community.
I really wrestled with the nature of the transaction I was interested in. And I found that I had done wonderful things all my life, and I was just sick and tired of it. It didn't change anything. There was no systemic change whatsoever. I had tried ministry that didn't involve relationships. And at best, they were shallow and superficial. And I really had got this sense that the church is unique in that it has that call and capacity to share Christ's love via a relationship. And ironically, many of the agency people who approached me had a better understanding of that than the church. I think the biggest lesson I've learned in however many years, probably close to 50 years, is that one, that give someone an understanding, give them the necessary training, help them form those relationships, help them come alongside other people and let Christ work through them. It's fun to see that.
So my heart has been, and my heart still is how do we empower and encourage, come alongside followers of Christ and set them up for success, for relationship with our most under-resourced lives in communities that, and what I've really wanted to do with followers of Christ was help them to understand that there really is very little difference between you and the person who is asking for help in their time of great need. And what we found as we began to work on that culture change, that paradigm shift at Love, was that, as Virgil has said, people want to do this work. They want to be in these relationships. And the biggest thing that we tried to teach people was, you're not here to solve problems. So we took the problem off the table as being a requirement to be in the conversation and really wanted to help them foster that relationship. Other people that came through the program, anger, anxiety, fear for my life. You know, we had the privilege of mentoring people from the local church who were willing to step into those situations that are overwhelming for anybody, right? But we could empower them to hold that person's hand, to breathe life on them, to remind them of their dignity, to remind them of the fact that they can do this, you're not alone, and to journey forward with them. The graduation ceremonies, I'm there for it. I'm there for it, to hear the stories of life change that we got to be part of.
That was stunning for me to see how much was going on, that there are so many things. And what strikes me about that is that there are hundreds, and over the years, thousands of people who have taken what they could, what they had, whether it's their dining room table or their ability to fix bikes or a class that they can teach. And it's all of these people not only bringing what they have, but really gaining from it. It is an understanding of community that I don't think I ever had before.
Caring Christians to come alongside someone, put their arm around someone's shoulder and love them and treat them with dignity and offer them the opportunity to learn living skills so they can become independent. Don't give me the stuff. Give me the people. Give me the love.
The poverty that most people come to us with is not poverty of resources, but poverty of community. Exactly. And so a chance to make those connections, to help create the context where God changes lives.
The beauty of an organization like Love Your Neighbor is we become a great asset in the life of the local church. So local churches are full of really good people who want to make a difference, who want to have an eternal impact, right? But the church by nature wants to look inward. Sunday comes every 7 days. We've got children to minister, we've got students, we've got groups, we've got programs, right? And we understand that. But an organization like Love Your Neighbor nudges up against a church and says, okay, I know you're looking in and you're doing really good stuff, but let's take all that good stuff you're doing and let's look out. And by the way, we're here to journey with your people in a way that sets them up for success in that conversation. For me, that is the greatest gift that Love Your Neighbor can provide to the community and to followers of Christ in that community. What we found was that there was a disconnect between the people within the ministry understanding and having hope for the very people that we were serving. And it was a disconnect that pushed the work we were doing into more of a transactional mode. And we wanted to transform the culture, the worldview, the position to one of transformation. And I think we'd all agree that transformation can only happen in the context of a successful relationship. And what we found was the people who were asking for help had forgotten in some ways that they had dignity, that they had the ability to participate in their success in a meaningful way. And then we also realized that the people in the ministry who were there saying they wanted to help had also forgotten that the people who were asking for help had dignity. So we spent a good bit of time understanding, learning about dignity, and also beginning to grow our ability to recognize assets. You know, where are the assets within this conversation? The people coming to us and asking for help have assets. Are we able to identify those assets? And then are we able to help that person use those assets in a way that improves their life, improves their worldview, improves the way that they move forward? A year-long journey in life skills is wonderful, but you got to come to an end to that, right? When you walk forth after that journey, what's that person believe about themselves, believe about God, believe about the church, believe about their ability to make a contribution? So we, you know, they say culture change is the hardest thing to do, but we did it. We inspired and encouraged and sometimes coerced a belief and an acceptance of that every person is made in God's image, endowed with inherent dignity. Every person has something to offer, and that we were going to step into every conversation embracing those two critical truths.
I love that it breaks down the divide between us and them and invites us into that New Testament concept of all of the one another passages. You know, encourage one another. That's not an encourager and an encouragee. That is each other.
Yes.
And I think that has been really powerful in moving forward and taking some of that division away and saying that we are not here to provide transformation for other people, but the transformation is on everybody's part.
Ray Vander Laan spoke some time ago at a Love audience, and he said, we are not called to transform lives. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. We are called to demonstrate what a transformed life looks like. We can't do that unless we come alongside someone who needs to see that transformation. You can't do it long distance or remotely, but I think we try to find ways to do that. It'll never work.
And I think that's at the heart of our changed mission statement. We started out with following Jesus Christ, who transforms lives. It's not our job, but it is certainly our job to follow closely and to be in community and to spend that time together.
Scripture is pretty clear about the needs that we should really be focusing on. It's the widows, it's the orphans, it's the strangers. Love, I think, has the opportunity, and I think it has the presence and the credibility to help churches learn how to make those connections.
And I think that it's a challenge to the church. What does it look like to eradicate poverty, but to do it one relationship at a time? And I would love to tell you in 40 years that this organization doesn't exist.
Out of business.
Because the church is the church in the lives of the whole and the broken and everything in between, right? But if not, then we just, and the things that we do that you do at Love Your Neighbor, they're rooted in this ancient text, right? The love of the widow, the orphan, the stranger, the prisoner, the lost, the broken. So if you're still rooted in those ancient things that are actually touching the heart of Christ, then you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, in my opinion. Doing it with dignity, doing it with engagement, education, support, but always, for me, focused on the people. We build systems, we build processes, but they are in support of transformation of lives.
There might be more room for specialization. Love can do a lot of things, a lot of resources, but we're starting to see segmentation in the marginalized communities. Mental health is a disaster. Surgeon General recently declared loneliness to be an epidemic.
What is probably going to be constant for us is change, because we have to be innovative. We have to keep moving. We have to think not about how we have done it, but about where God's calling us next. And that's always going to be a little different.
For me, the dream was, what if we had 10 churches with 8 families? So that way the church really gets to specialize in relationships. And I know that you have been continuing on with that vision. And I think the more we can bring the asset of relationship into the life of the church, and then it's not something out there, it's something that we embrace, that we own. You know, we're feeding people, we're having classes, we're having relationships, we've got children. To enfold that into the life of a community, and then enfold those people who have reached out and said, I'm lonely, I have a need, I'm hungry, I'm single, and enfold that into the community can only become richer, right? So I love that you're working through that decentralization, and I think that adds more life to the body of a community when they embrace that little, microcosm of hope.
I do believe that his crusades would have been helped immeasurably if the people who made that commitment to Christ would have left not only with a Bible, but with a friend. We could do that. Love could do that.
Yes. I think that boils down to why we chose the new name when we left, is that love your neighbor is in large part how we love God, that those two are inextricable. And to be able to look at people as important to you in your world, not a project, not a something to do. I am struck by, if you want to do the same thing, if you don't want to change what you're doing, you probably have to change how you do it, just in terms of the way the world changes, community needs change. The fact that loneliness is an epidemic right now means something about how we have to deal with people. The fact that mental health care is a real crisis for a lot of people means we have to respond in a way that reaches what's going on. Well, I just want to take a moment to thank both of you. To know that over the 40 years, there have been several people instrumental in how love works today. So thank you for that kernel, that nudge, the change to say, I want to do this differently. And we're really grateful to the people that put together all of those structures that gathered people, that gathered churches, the people with a vision to build a campus that we can really do great things from. I'm really grateful for the change in mindset and understanding of our relationship. And I can't wait to see what God does with what has been poured into this organization. So thanks for sitting down to have a chat.
My pleasure.